Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome to Game Over Edmonton. It's your boy, Avry Lewis McDougall. I'm back, new webcam. My mic works. No calamity like last show. And I am here with a very special guest. If you follow Oilers Twitter, you know this man. It is the one, the only, Jason Adams. Adams on Hockey on Twitter. How you doing, boy? Welcome to the podcast. How you doing, sir?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well tonight. Very little to complain about, which is rare for me, as most people know. But no, like all in all, pretty happy with how things went tonight, and yeah, I'm really excited to be on the show.
No, I appreciate that. Of course, Edmonton wins tonight, 6-3 on the road in Dallas. They knock off the 3-game slide, and it was a game, Jason, in which I love the fact that this was a game in which offensively the Oilers were not carried by McDavid and Draisaitl. You got scoring and production from the likes of guys like Nugent-Hopkins. You got points from Klim Kostin, Matisse Janmark. This is a game in which Edmonton needed to get a win and show they can do more than just relying on those two big stars.
Well, exactly. The team goes into Nashville and loses, and goes into Dallas and wins. I mean, that's just how you drew it up, right? That's all we all expected to happen. But no, it was good. No, it was nice to see some of the other guys stepping up. I mean, Nugent-Hopkins has been fantastic all season long, and Janmark, I've been saying it. Just he's got to get bumped down the lineup, and as soon as that line becomes the third line, he puts up 3 points. So it's nice to see them. Nice to see them finding some chemistry, and nice to see some guys maybe wouldn't expect leading the way tonight.
No, of course. You mentioned Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. He's on pace to get more than 25 goals, set a career high. And this is a guy in which he has had overall a very steady season. I've liked what he's brought so far this year to the team, Jason. I'm sure you'd agree with his production as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year there was a lot of concern about his ability to produce 5-on-5. I haven't taken a look at it lately, but it's definitely better this year. Nugent-Hopkins in the last couple of years has kind of become a bit of an odd duck in the sense that he's an elite special teams guy, but was kind of just so 5-on-5 the last couple of years. But this year he's really taken his game to another level, and he's the longest serving Oiler. He owns a racehorse named Infinite Patience, so it's he's got a sense of humor, and he loves being an Oiler, and I love seeing him succeed.
No, of course, Infinite Patience. I mean, for a guy who's built this team since early 2010s, I mean, you need infinite patience as a guy in that team that long, as fans, as media members. I mean, we've seen this guy go through literally everything there is to have in the past decade on this roster, Jason. And he's still been with his team. He took a pay cut to stay with his team. I mean, he's a guy who's shown that, no matter what's come his way, he wants to remain at Edmonton when a lot of guys would want to leave first chance he could get.
Absolutely. And I mean, during going into that off season, I remember it was kind of bounced around. He could probably get something in the 7s, maybe 7.5 somewhere else, especially with Seattle coming into the league, and everybody's starving for offense, it seems. So I definitely think he could have gotten more to go somewhere else, but not only did he stay here, he stayed here for as long as he could. And this is obviously where he wants to be. It's where his home is, it's where his heart is, and it's really nice to see him doing well this season.
No, of course. Does it feel weird calling him a grizzled vet because he's been here for over a decade now? He's only 29 years old. Like, it feels like he doesn't
look a day over 16.
It's true. Like, you would think, this guy is not aged since his days in Red Deer, but yet he's the longest tenured guy on this roster. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but if he could somehow bottle his anti-aging routine, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would buy it. But no, he's a guy that has been he's been an Oiler since almost, I don't know if it's quite a decade yet or just over, but it's kind of fascinating to see that kind of his evolution as a player from this highly touted number 1 overall draft pick to maybe not hitting the offensive highs we expected him to, but he always had a great two-way game. And the last couple of years he kind of shifted over, played more of the wing than playing at center, and now this year he's been back at center more. So he's such a versatile guy, and he's such an asset to this team in the sense he can do literally anything you ask him to do, and he goes about his business with a smile on his face, and that really endears him to a lot of people, I think. It's like you never hear or see Ryan Nugent-Hopkins complaining about what he's asked to do or the minutes he's played or anything like that. So, he's a hockey player through and through.
No, it's true. He really is. And this roster, one thing I thought was really strange was just the lineup construction once again, where someone like Dylan Holloway was playing fourth line minutes. And I'm really sure what to make right now of Jake Woodcroft's deployment of Dylan Holloway, because when he's given more ice time, you can see what he can do. He gets to the net, he creates chances. So I'm a little bit baffled in terms of what Jay's doing with Woodcroft with Holloway. What are your thoughts on that? Because him playing the fourth line, I feel this was really strange to see against Dallas.
It's odd, and I think that's probably the word I could probably use to describe Jay Woodcroft's season so far, and that it's been a little odd. He's making some decisions that he maybe wouldn't have made last year, and I don't know if he was just focused on making the playoffs and wasn't necessarily like looking at the lineup as much as he was and just kind of going with his gut, or whatever the case was. I felt like he was making better decisions as a coach last year. There's also the fact, of course, the Oilers are missing, two of their top 9 forwards, and Evander Kane and Ryan McLeod. They've been out for a while. That's going to throw a wrench into things for sure. But even when Evander Kane got hurt, the Oilers were 7-6, so they weren't exactly shooting the lights out either. So maybe it's just a case of them needing to find their game a little bit. Maybe it's just a case of they don't quite have the personnel yet. But his decision making with a guy like Holloway, as you kind of mentioned, it's almost fascinating, and it would be fascinating if it wasn't so irritating.
Yeah,
because like you see flashes in Holloway's game. Mm-hmm. Like he's big, he's fast, he's skilled, he goes to the right places. Even in limited minutes tonight, he was doing a lot of good things. His underlying stats are fantastic. So the play is going in the right direction when he's on the ice. That just kind of makes you wonder why, like what's the coaching staff seeing that we're not, that make them not trust him more than 7 or 8 minutes a game. And until recently, you've had a guy like Janmark playing 17, 18 minutes instead. Like what would they have to see to kind of have those numbers meet in the middle, if that makes sense? But I don't know. I've always personally believed that skill's got to play with skill to get a real feel for what they are and what they're doing. And with all due respect to guys like Derek Ryan and Devin Shore and that kind of stuff, they're not out there to produce offensively, really. Like Craig McTavish said a while ago, he doesn't, when he's still coaching the Oilers, didn't necessarily want guys that would just break even at best, and in a lot of cases that's what the Oilers bottom 6 has been the last little while. So why not try Holloway in an elevated role? I don't know why.
Yeah, no, it's very weird. I mentioned, he goes to the right places, and his shot, we see a shot before. We saw him again against the New York Rangers. Like, he's got a shot that proves he has a place in the NHL for a very long time to come. So it's really odd to see what Holloway is doing. I saw a couple of comments, too, on Twitter before the game began. I saw a few comments where basically saying if Holloway's going to play in the fourth line, put him back in Bakersfield, we can do more in AHL. So he's not utilizing him the best, playing 45 minutes. Yeah, I agree to an extent. If he's not going to play more, then maybe you should go back to Bakersfield.
And that's what a coach and a GM kind of have to work together and figure out is what's best for the team and what's best for the player, and how do you get best of both worlds. Is there value in seeing Connor McDavid practice every day? Is there value in seeing some of the veterans work ethic and practice habits and that kind of stuff? Sure, there is, but is that more valuable than playing, top line number 1 power play, PK, whatever, kind of learning all aspects of the game in the AHL would be? I'm not convinced it's more valuable than that. Like, personally, I'd probably, if they're going to play Holloway 7 minutes a night, like send him out to the AHL, maybe he comes back next year, kind of ready to grab a top 6 role. But I don't know. At this stage, I would say that, but that's the other side of it too. Is it's a hard decision to make because I don't think he's playing poorly. In the minutes he's given, he's playing well. He's just not being given enough of them.
Right. Yeah, it's really odd to see. And you know what? I really think of the two. I think Warren Foegele reads Twitter because the fact that he got a goal tonight showed that hey, he knows he has to step up in his game because his game over the past little while has been very pedestrian. He's just been a body. I know he hasn't had the best year, but he's been a body when he's played in so far in the roster. So he's seeing him score, and hopefully he can carry it over to the games next week against Vancouver and against, of course, Winnipeg later on, because they're going to need a guy like him to step up and straight up not be a pedestrian on this roster going forward, Jason.
This will date me a bit and out me as the old man I am, but Foegele really reminds me of a guy that some might be familiar with, some might not be. His name is Brad Isbister. Spent years on
There's a throwback name.
There's a throwback name, but he was one of those guys. He had every tool you could possibly want in a hockey player. He was big, he was quick, he could shoot,
Mm-hmm.
he was decent defensively. He was in good positions. He didn't mind taking the body, but he couldn't do them all at once. It was like, he had this list of like 8 things he could do, and he could only pick 3 every game that he would do well. And I see a lot of that in Foegele, but Foegele, he does a lot of the same things. He's big, he's quick, he's physical, he's got a great shot. He gets in a lot of trouble when he tries to stick handle. I last year called him canoe paddles on Twitter because his hands are not great. But when he plays, your classic prototypical, north-south game, straight lines, finishing his checks, shooting when he's got an opportunity, he's a valuable player. And tonight was a good example of it. He got to the right spot. He didn't think about it too hard. He just shot the puck when it came to him, and it went in the net. So, that's how he has to play to be successful. And hopefully we see more of it.
No, hopefully, could not agree more. And a big thing too, Edmonton's win tonight. I said on last show a couple of days ago, Jason, is the fact that Edmonton has to find ways to get points against teams inside their conference. And getting points against teams of Dallas, it's huge because now you have games coming up against teams like Vancouver, Winnipeg, and then in early January you're playing Seattle. These are all teams you're going to be battling against when it comes to either a playoff spot in your division or a wild card spot. So getting wins in your conference right now is massive for this team.
It is, and if I remember correctly, Edmonton's record against the Western Conference generally, but the Pacific Division specifically, was actually excellent last year. So if they can get back to doing that and, taking, out of every 10 games, if they can win 6 of them and get a tie or 2 in here, an overtime loss, that's gonna pay dividends in the long run. Seattle's playing really good hockey right now. So they're not a pushover in any way.
Right? It's funny. Like I'm enjoying that. I'm glad we moved. I'm glad we moved past the days of an expansion team being horrible for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. I like the fact that Seattle's come in year 2 and built a team that wants to contend. Of course, if you're an Oilers fan, you don't like that. But I think for the league as a whole, seeing Seattle playing really well is a really good thing.
Yeah, especially since 3 pretty significant ex-Oilers are playing significant roles on that Seattle team right now, and Justin Schultz, Jordan Eberle, and Adam Larson. So it's a little bit bittersweet to watch them doing well, but especially that I don't know if you would have seen it, but that Eberle Spinnerama backhand goal from a few nights ago.
I did see it, yes.
That was fantastic. I watch it and I'm like, man, Oilers could use a guy like that. Oh wait, we got rid of him after a playoff run that didn't go our way. So it's hard. It was the cost of doing business, and kind of once it got to that point, some guys had to get moved out, and Pete Chiarelli might have been a decent GM if he never let him anywhere near a phone and just let him draft and develop. But unfortunately, he made trades too. So here we are.
Right. And of course, that's a great segue there, because speaking of guys who look good in Oilers blue and orange, one Mr. Jacob Chychrun. This is a guy who, I just find it so interesting how of course, we know who you ask, we know who you talk to, and people say, Chychrun's not the guy. But most of the fan base agrees he's the kind of guy that you should be trading for. And I understand that the ask for Chychrun will be high from Arizona. They're probably going to want a prospect, a young player, and a pick. But I see it as, if that's a cost of business, if you want to win now into the NHL, that's cost of business. If it means sacrificing a pick or a couple of picks and a Philip Broberg and a prospect in Bakersfield, if you want to win, you got to do it. I feel that's cost of winning in the NHL right now, Jason.
Absolutely. And, this is where I'm going to start to get irritated, because there's been a few things come out in the last week or so that make me scratch my head and want to throw things at the same time. So let's start off with the evaluation of Broberg, and it came out today. Daniel Nugent-Bowman, who I think is a fantastic writer,
Yes.
put out a piece saying effectively that the Oilers believe that Philip Broberg could be as good as Jacob Chikrin by the end of the season. If I mean, that would be great, but I just don't see it. And I don't know if they're overrating Broberg or they're underrating Chikrin, or they're, if their scouting report on Chikrin is 4 years old, like every other scouting report in the organization. I don't know. But to say Jacob Chikrin is not, and I'll borrow from Mark Spector here, staunch defensively, it's complete bullshit. If you look at his game, if you look at his micro stats, if you look at his advanced stats, like watch the guy for half an hour, and he is good defensively. Arguably, he would be the Oilers' best defensive defenseman right now, and honestly, it's not even that arguable considering the way some of the Oilers are playing right now. There's this mentality, I think, that guys need to slot into the specific boxes that the media guys or the front office or whatever has picked for them.
Mm-hmm.
You're either an offensive guy or you're a defensive guy, and you can't be both. Jacob Chikrin's both. No, he's not. Is he going to keep scoring at a point per game rate? No, he's not. It's going to come down eventually. But that doesn't mean he isn't good offensively and good defensively. He does a lot of things well. He's physical, he's fast, he shoots the puck well, maybe too much. He makes a good first pass. He's strong in his own zone. The game that that Edmonton walked all over Arizona, about the only guy that held his own and in fact was matched up against McDavid and Draisaitl and did pretty well was Jacob Chikrin. So I don't see a scenario where Philip Broberg is as good as Jacob Chikrin is by the end of the year. If Jacob Chikrin and Philip Broberg are similar players in 3 years, I'll be really surprised. And I don't even dislike Broberg. I just think he's more of a guy that he's going to top out as a second pairing defenseman. And Jacob Chikrin right now is arguably a number one, certainly a top pairing option. And he represents to me, he is your all-in move to me. So guys like Vladislav Gavrikov and Joel Edmondson and a few of the others that have been talked about, those are halfway moves. And Ken Holland's done a lot of that as Oilers GM. He hasn't made that big impactful trade to change up the face of this team yet. He's done, the Tyler Ennis trade. He's done the Athanasiou trade. Brett Kulak trade was a good piece of business, but again, Kulak's kind of more of a 4-5 in my view. The Oilers really need to add an impact defenseman. And by impact, I don't mean hitting the boards. And in impact, I don't mean cross-checking guys in the head. I mean guys that can change the game on a dime. And Jacob Chikrin's that guy. He would be, if I was on the Oilers, he would be target number one for me. And would I give up, Broberg and a first-round pick and, a second-round pick and a decent prospect for him? Yeah, in my sleep. The challenge with Chikrin is that he's got a bit of a bigger cap hit than a guy like Edmondson does, but really it's about $1 million. You can make that work. You just have to organizationally decide that, we're going to go for it. We've got McDavid, we've got Draisaitl, they're in their 7th and 8th years respectively. This is the year to go for it. I don't know what's stopping them. I don't know what they're seeing in him that they don't like, but Chikrin's a good defenseman, man. I don't know why they would prioritize a guy like Joel Edmondson over him. That's baffling to me.
Right, and you mentioned salary cap. Like I've said before on different shows, like the elite team, the elite GMs find a way to make the money work. Teams like Tampa Bay make it work. Vegas, for a moment, made it work. The elite teams figure it out. The elite teams don't throw their hands in the air and say, we can't make it work, or it can't happen, or it's too hard. That's a problem with the Oilers for quite some time has been. If it's too challenging, or if it doesn't work at first glance, they don't do it.
Right. Absolutely. And, you talk about the elite teams like Tampa. Tampa did their time where they traded a first-round pick for their Joel Edmondson, David Savard, and they appeared to learn from it because when they got David Savard, they only played him 14 minutes a night. I mean, I don't think it would be quite that drastic in Edmonton for Joel Edmondson's ice time, specifically because they would keep playing him long past when it became obvious that he couldn't handle, 20, 21 minutes a night on a team that's got Stanley Cup aspirations. But I don't dislike Edmondson. I just feel like he's valuable at the right price, and that price is nowhere near a first round pick, or Xavier Bourgault to me. Like, if you can add him for lesser pieces, or if you can get Montreal to retain half, do you throw them a second round pick and a decent prospect? Sure, why not? That's fine. But Edmondson's not going to change the outlook of this team. They're going to get bigger, they're going to get slower, they're not really going to defend any better. I mean, I don't understand, a guy like Mark Spector lusting over this guy. He's not that good, and he's not that impactful. He's just big.
No, exactly. And you mentioned the Oilers were valuing certain things and how they trade. I'll back you, like, say Duncan Keith trade, in which Duncan Keith, the term could have been great if Chicago retained some salary and you weren't giving back a lot of assets. It could have been fine if it was Chicago eating most of the salary and Chicago losing that
Right.
deal. The fact that Edmonton lost that deal for Keith showed that Holland lost that trade. I mean, Edmonton, if it's Edmonton for a bit prospect or a lower draft pick, sure, but Edmonton for Bourgault, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah. And yeah, the Keith trade is another can of worms, but it's Keith was okay as an Oiler. Like, his advanced stats were fine. I think he helped out Evan Bouchard a bit? Sure. He wasn't worth $5.5 million, and we're pretty lucky he decided to retire, because God knows what we'd have done if he hadn't. But for me, it's just more evidence that Holland and his band of merry men don't necessarily value the right things to win in today's NHL. And I said this earlier today, but the Oilers appear to be trying to emulate the Habs team that went to the Cup final and lost. Why are we trying to model ourselves after a team that didn't win the Cup, when the team that beat the Habs and the team that beat us stomped us in the dirt with skill and speed and youth? I don't understand trying to counteract that with the likes of Joel Edmondson. If we're in an arms race, let's be in a proper arms race and add a couple pieces of our own to try and tip the scales our way. Not throw Joel Edmondson back there and hope for the best.
No, exactly, it's true. And with Jacob Chikrin, that there were the comments on how hopefully he can defend. And there was that Twitter thread that Papa McLeod put out there, which showed plain simple. If people want to talk about the eye test, there's visual proof right there of Jacob Chikrin for 2 minutes straight being strong in his own end, denying his own entries, forcing turnovers. Like, how much more proof do you need to see that Edmondson, Chikrin, like you said, Jason, can defend and be an asset offensively? Like, what more proof do you really need?
And there's narratives like, if Chikrin was so good, why hasn't he been traded already? And that just makes me want to put my head through my computer. Like, GMs don't have to rush to the trading table if they think they're going to lose a trade. And Jacob Chikrin is A+ quality asset. The Coyotes are going to take as long as they take, I think, to get the price that they want. And his recent play has increased that asking price, not taking the edge off of it. Yes, Chikrin's got some injury problems, but frankly, so does Edmondson. And frankly, every NHL player is at risk of getting injured. So, take a guy that's playing well and go for the best. And if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. There's nothing you can do about it. But for the games that he is playing, he's a massive difference maker. And, outside of maybe like a Matthias Ekholm, who's been mentioned a couple of different times as potentially available, again, I don't really see it because Nashville's kind of right in the thick of things. And Nashville's always kind of in that 6 through 10 spots. They're always kind of in the playoff hunts. And Ekholm's got, I think, 3 years left at 6.25 or something like that. So he'd be even harder to fit in than Chikrin would be. But this team has to make a move to fundamentally change how it plays hockey. Because tonight aside, the team has just kind of been okay this year, and fans and as well as media, everybody in the front office, nobody should be okay with this team just being average right now, which is what it is.
No, exactly. I totally agree. And before we wrap things up here, Jason, I gotta pay some bills and be kind to our sponsor, Sports Interaction, here for 1 second. Think you know what way it's gonna go? Make your bet with Sports Interaction. Whether it's hockey, football, or basketball, Sports Interaction has you covered. Bet pregame, live in play, or on one of our many prop bets. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see what sports betting has to offer. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. That's sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus, please play responsibly. And Jason, with this team, I do want to ask you, what have been your overall thoughts in terms of course, goaltending? Stuart Skinner starts again tonight, gets another win, and I've been a big Stuart Skinner guy for a very long time, so seeing him get another win is great for me. But Jack Campbell, Jack Campbell came into this year as the number one starter, and I knew his play could be shaky, but seeing him right now pretty much being the number two guy, it's not a good situation right now for the Oilers. It's not good, and you're seeing people discussing a buyout after year one. Like, you can't be buying him out after year one, but the place he's in right now, he is not the starter that they need right now, Jason.
The NHL is a cap league, and you've only got so much money to play with. And the problem is that for a position like goaltending, it's even harder to hide somebody than, say, a defenseman or a forward that's not playing well. Most NHL teams carry two goalies. You can carry three if you have to, but teams don't like to do it because it really hamstrings you in other areas. You can't have an unplayable goalie on the roster for very long. And right now, Stuart Skinner, it's his net. He's not giving it back anytime soon. It looks like he just got a new contract. Looks like the organization likes him. He likes the organization. You feel bad for Jack Campbell, you really do, because you wanted him to come in, you wanted him to play well, and you wanted him to, take that starter's role and, maybe be a 1A, 1B situation with Skinner. But Campbell's just not playing well, and you don't really know what to do about it in this case. I guess you kind of just let him keep working with the goalie coaches and maybe change his equipment around. Apparently he was using nylon cord in his glove, which, as far as I understand, is not very common for goalies. And he switched over to skate lace, which is a little bit more rigid, a little bit stiffer. So you can, it's kind of forms more of like a bulwark back there, so it actually stops the puck. Like, there was a couple times, I think it was one of the Svechnikov shots earlier this year, you could see like the puck it went into his glove, but he couldn't control it from that point.
Right.
That hasn't happened as much lately since he made the switch. So maybe something like that's helping him out. But the Oilers also aren't in a position where they can throw Campbell a start every 3 games and hope it goes well. They need every point they can get. So, what do you do with Jack Campbell right now? I don't know. You play him on back-to-backs and hope it irons itself out, and hope that Justin Schwartz can do some work with him. But Dustin Schwartz is a fairly polarizing figure among Oiler fans. There a lot of people don't like him, but all the goalies I know, they say nothing but great things about him and say he's really well respected in the community. So maybe he can do some work with him, maybe not. But it's not a great situation. I think they have to look at every option they have in terms of moving him. You can look at a guy like, say Matt Murray or Peter Mrazek and that kind of thing. Like, goalies are almost always movable because a lot of teams want to give them a shot, especially a team with nothing to lose, like maybe a Chicago or something like that next year would give them a try. But I don't know. They, you got to take this year and play him, every 4 or 5 games and see if he can iron himself out. But I hope he does better. He seems like a super nice guy, and it's been spoken about a little bit. He gets really down on himself mentally when he's struggling. So you hope he can pull himself out of it, but I don't know.
No, of course, you really do.
Not looking good right now.
Yeah, you really do hope he can pull himself out of it, because in the postseason you are going to need both Skinner and Campbell to step up. But I will say this much, though, Jason. One problem though, like the guys in front of him, too many times you see this team playing from behind way too many times and not ready to get into a period at the start. Like we saw, even though Edmonton won this game, they gave up a goal in the second period, less than a minute in. And it doesn't matter what goalie it is. It doesn't matter if it's Skinner or it's Campbell. Not being ready to start a period, it hurts the team as a whole, not just through goaltending.
For sure. And, he's been ripped on a lot. I don't necessarily want to rip on him here, but Nurse is having a really tough start to the season. He looks like a guy that's being weighed down by the weight of his own contract. It's not a good situation when Tyson Barrie has arguably been your best and most complete defender all year long. And, Barry's having a good year, and, good for him, happy for him. But I don't know how many playoff rounds a team with Tyson Barrie as his best defender is going to win. I'm going to guess that's 0. But, Nurse has shown he can play some really high-end hockey for long stretches, and, there were some whispers he might still be, nursing his hip injury a little bit. So hopefully he can figure it out too, because he's had a tough go this year.
He has. You know what? Hey, a trade for Jacob Chychrun, someone can help Darnell, because right now Darnell, at times you can see he's doing a bit too much, and he's a good defenseman. He is, he is still going to be a franchise D-man. Bring Jacob Chychrun. He can help out Darnell and make Darnell feel he doesn't have to be Mr. Everything and play almost 3 minutes a night or make certain plays, because there's certain plays Darnell makes. It's like the boring play can be fine. You don't have to make that risky play all the time, Darnell. A boring, safe play can be just as good as a high-risk play. So you acquire Chychrun, you give Darnell some help on the back end. That would be great to see. And Jason, before we wrap things up, I do want to let you. Where can people find you on Twitter? Where can they find you on social media, good buddy?
My handle is @AdamsOnHockey. My name changes seasonally. And also, you'll find me @AdamsOnHockey, and I'll be wearing a bandana and sunglasses, because I started doing that, but honestly, because I have a very large head and most hats don't fit. So that's kind of why I started, and now I'm just stuck with it. So
that's amazing. Well, I appreciate you coming on to Game Over Edmonton tonight. Got to get you back on again before the year ends. It was a blast talking to you tonight, buddy.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Avry. It was a treat to be here.
No, of course. And for those of you in the chat, thank you all for tuning in to Game Over. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment to the SDPN YouTube channel. Your likes and comments and shares help us all. Like I always say, tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your frenemies about the podcast. For Jason, I'm Avry. We are out. See you guys next time. Zach will be back with the next podcast when the Oilers take on Vancouver on the 23rd. Peace out. Have a good night.
Game over! Powered by Sports Interaction, Canada Sportsbook.
Sorry, I might have gone on